Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving into a piece of gear that takes a famously complex sound,
Yeah.
that robotic synthesized voice you hear in, classic electronic music, modern pop, everywhere, and somehow it manages to stuff that entire process into a tiny, unassuming, compact pedal.
And the challenge we are addressing here is, it's monumental. Historically, achieving a true vocoder effect was not just difficult, it was incredibly resource intensive. We're talking about these massive setups. You needed dedicated synthesizers, a microphone input, maybe a whole rack mount processor.
Or one of those specialized keyboards from Korg or Roland, right?
Exactly. So that kind of synthesis was just completely inaccessible to the average guitar or bass player.
Absolutely. It was a whole separate workflow, a different skill set. So today we're zeroing in on the BLS V01 vocoder. It came out in 2016, and it's an instrument voice processor. And it was designed specifically to bridge that gap, to bring that fully playable vocoder sound to a pedal board.
And what's so fascinating here is that the V01 is, at its core, a voice-controlled synthesizer. You can use it with just a guitar and a microphone.
But not always a microphone, which is the crazy part.
That's the breakthrough. In certain modes, you don't even need the mic. It just uses the instrument itself. This pedal is really a masterclass in how this, powerful, complex tech was successfully miniaturized.
So our mission today is to understand that magic trick. We're going to explore the internal architecture that makes the talking guitar actually possible. We'll break down its 4 very distinct modes, and we'll look at why this pedal is considered one of the most innovative, maybe one of the most unconventional pieces of gear, BOS, ever made. So let's start with that idea of a compact breakthrough. When you look at the entire BOSS lineup, which goes back decades.
It's vast.
It is. And the V01 is often singled out as one of the most creative and unusual pedals they have. Why is that?
Well, because it stands out as the first true vocoder, specifically built for guitar and bass, that fits in that classic compact pedal format.
And that miniaturization, it's not some clever analog trick.
No, not at all. It relies entirely on its very sophisticated digital signal processing, its DSP engine. This is high-level digital computation. And the core tech really hinges on 3 things happening at once: multi-band formant analysis, high-speed real-time voice tracking, which BLSS calls formant shaping, and polyphonic pitch detection.
Okay, hold on. Let's ground that. For anyone listening who might not be deep into synthesis, what exactly is formant shaping? Why is that so critical?
Right, good question. So think of formants as the acoustic fingerprints of human speech.
Okay.
They are the resonant peaks of sound that define the unique shape of your vocal tract, your throat, your mouth. It's what lets us tell an A sound from an E sound.
I see.
So the V01's DSP engine uses these advanced high-speed filters to simulate those mouth cavity formants, and that simulation is the entire ballgame. It's what generates that human-like vowel filtering and that classic robotic texture we all know. If that tracking isn't instantaneous, the whole effect just falls apart.
That makes perfect sense. If there's any lag, it just becomes unusable, unmusical.
Totally.
But this brings up a point for pedal nerds. The V01 has a buffered bypass, which is always a hot topic. Was that a necessary trade-off for this kind of performance?
It was almost certainly a requirement. For an effect that relies on such high-speed, real-time tracking, latency is the ultimate killer. You need that instant detection.
So the DSP has to be always on, in a sense.
Exactly. The engine has to maintain power to perform that analysis, so a buffered bypass is used to minimize any signal delay and keep the playing feel immediate. If they'd gone with true bypass, that power on lag when you stomp on it would have been way too jarring for live use.
It's a pragmatic choice then, performance over purity.
It had to be.
And speaking of professional use, the connectivity really reflects that. You don't just have a guitar input, you have a proper professional-grade XLR microphone input with its own gain knob.
Precisely. And the inclusion of the XLR mic through is crucial for live and studio work. It shows this was built for more than just noodling in a bedroom.
So you can send your clean vocal signal straight to the mixing board.
Yep. A performer connects their mic, the V01 analyzes the signal, but then the dry, clean mic signal goes right out the through jack to the front of house. It streamlines a really complex setup into one little box.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. The 4 modes. Each one is a totally different instrument voice synthesis model. It just opens up so much for guitarists.
Let's dive into the classic tones first, with Mode 1, Vintage. This is a direct line to the 70s and early 80s.
Right, so we're thinking Electric Light Orchestra, or maybe the textures Daft Punk made famous again.
That's the sound profile, exactly. It has that signature grainy texture.
That classic vocoder rasp, it's so recognizable.
It is, and that graininess is often simulating older, lower resolution filtering. It's very format-driven. And for this mode, you absolutely have to use a microphone. You need a strong, clean vocal signal to drive it.
Now, in complete contrast, you jump straight into the 21st century with Mode 2, Advanced. How did that achieve what they call enhanced articulation?
The main difference is just the fidelity of the digital filtering. If Vintage is like an old 8-band analog system, Advanced is using a much higher resolution, broader format range inside that DSP.
So it's cleaner.
Much cleaner. It provides smoother consonants and vowels, so your articulation sounds closer to a human voice, even though it's still synthesized. It's perfect for modern electronic pop or synthwave styles where you want that clarity.
So Vintage is the grit, and Advanced is the gloss.
Well said. Exactly. Moving on, Mode 3 TalkBox is a game changer because of what it gets rid of.
The tube. The sheer hassle of carrying around that plastic tube, taping it to a mic stand, all of that is gone.
Precisely. It perfectly emulates that classic TalkBox tone. You know, the vowel sweeps you hear from Peter Frampton or Joe Walsh.
Yeah.
But it does it all internally. No messy physical tube. It just applies those vocal-like, wah-like vowels directly to the guitar signal.
Which must make it so much easier to use.
Incredibly easy. And a cool little side note is that because it's a digital effect, it stacks really well with other pedals, like a good distortion or a fuzz. You can get a massive singing tone.
And then there's Mode 4 Ensemble, which I know is a huge favorite for ambient players. And again, crucially, no microphone needed for this one either.
Right. And ensemble mode is fundamentally different. It takes the polyphonic pitch information from your guitars of the chords you play, and it uses that format filtering to multiply and stack it. It turns your guitar into this lush vocal choir or a rich pad synth.
And it creates this huge sense of space, even in mono.
It does. It does that with some subtle detuning and phase manipulation on those harmonic layers, so it's perfect for these big ambient textures. It sounds less like a synth pad and more like a warm, backing vocal swell.
And to manage all of this, you just have 3 main knobs: color for the vowel intensity, tone for EQ, and blend for the wet-dry mix. That's classic BOSS design right there.
It is. All that complexity hidden under a really simple, familiar interface. So if we connect these to the bigger picture, the insight is just how versatile this makes the guitar. Thanks to that DSP, the guitar can now speak, it can sing, whisper, chant, or create these huge vocal pads, all from a standard setup.
So for a working musician, what does this actually mean? Where does this pedal provide real utility beyond just being a quirky sound?
Well, for creative guitar and bass playing, it's way more than just robotic riffs. You can use it for rhythmic phrasing, like injecting a percussive talking layer into funk, or even noise rock.
I could see that.
And it's fantastic for synth-like lead solos where you want a real vocal quality in your bends and vibrato.
And for ambient and cinematic players, I imagine the ensemble mode is just indispensable.
Oh, it's the main driver there. Because it generates those layers of vocal-like harmonics, you get these choir textures and massive swells that sound inherently human. It's not like a sterile synth pad.
Much more organic.
Way more. It's so powerful for background soundscapes, especially in ambient or post-rock.
Let's circle back to live performance for a second, because that XLR mic through simplifies life for a singing guitarist so much, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Think about the logistics. If you're a guitarist who also sings lead and you want to use a vocoder, you suddenly have to manage 3 signals. Your guitar, your dry vocal, and the wet vocoder effect.
It's a whole thing.
It is. But with the mic through, you just send one XLR cable to the stage box. The sound engineer gets your clean vocal for the monitors and the main mix, and they get the vocoder guitar signal separately. It just streamlines everything.
It turns one person into a self-contained singer and synth setup.
Especially if you pair it with a looper, like a BySS RC series. You can build these complex layers of vocal texture all by yourself, on the fly.
And what about in the studio? Beyond just the obvious musical parts, how do people use it for pure sound design?
Producers will often use it to layer harmonic complexity onto other sounds.
Yeah.
Because that color knob sweeps the formats. You can use it to add these unique controlled vocal sweeps to drums, to synths, to anything really.
Yeah.
You can create experimental filter effects that are impossible to get with a normal EQ. Now, while the VO1 is really innovative, we do have to talk about the practical side of it, the learning curve.
Right.
The sources are pretty clear on this. It's a niche effect. You're not going to leave this on all the time like you would an overdrive. It's a signature sound.
And that learning curve is significant, isn't it? Especially with your playing articulation. If the DSP needs a clean, precise signal to track well, that must exclude certain styles of playing, right? You're not going to get a clean result from, say, heavily distorted shredding.
That's a fair critique. And yeah, you're pushing the effect to its limits if you feed it a really indistinct, distorted signal. For the best performance, the VO1 needs accurate pitch and dynamic information.
So sloppy playing just won't work.
It turns into a garbled mess instead of a singing robot. It really forces you to adopt a clean, rhythmic articulation. Sometimes you even have to change your pick attack to give the DSP the clearest data possible. It requires a bit of musical discipline.
That reframes it. It's not just a stomp box. It's a technical instrument that needs precise input.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's still so popular suggests the pros definitely outweigh those cons.
They absolutely do. You're getting a true high-fidelity vocoder in the smallest possible format. The ensemble mode is exceptionally musical, and the tracking is superb as long as you play cleanly.
Plus that professional XLR integration, that gives it a huge leg up.
Huge advantage. So its legacy is pretty well set. It's genre crossing, it's boundary pushing. It's really a testament to Boas's willingness to push their DSP into some truly unconventional places.
And it found its audience.
It really did. A dedicated following among experimental guitarists, ambient players who love those pads, and EDM-influenced musicians who need that synthetic voice without hauling around a keyboard rig. It successfully merged two worlds.
So we've seen how the VO1 took this synthesis technology that once needed a whole rack of gear, multiple inputs, synths, processors, and it boiled it all down to a single stomp box. And in doing that, it effectively merged the expressiveness of the human voice with the versatility of the electric guitar.
Which raises a really important question that goes way beyond just this one pedal. Given Boas's mastery of this DSP-based format shaping, I mean, that's the core technology that lets the VO1 track a voice and a guitar so fast.
Right.
You have to wonder how far this kind of real-time voice and instrument fusion could be pushed next. Could that high-speed tracking engine fundamentally change sound design? Power entirely new tools for, I don't know, modular synths, VR audio, or even new digital instruments.
So what new sonic possibilities could that powerful engine unlock for you?
Exactly. What could it power for you?
Something to think about the next time you hear a robotic voice in a song and realize it might have just been a guitar.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.